So this video is going to concentrate on the training configuration data TR003 in the new UI. I'm going to focus on the evaluation options here, which is the complicated area of the system. So each course configuration discussion needs to include what this training course flow needs to be. What's the process for this training course? I'm going to cover the very basic one first to get you going, and then I'm going to add on steps, because this is really the way that I like to talk to customers and educate them. Now, the training manager will know this back to front, but maybe the quality management team haven't had a training management system in the past, and therefore, it depends on the maturity of the client as to how easy this is to configure and to get approved. But my recommended approach is we have the evaluation on the training. We don't have pre-training to start with. And then the evaluation type is score, i.e. they have to have a test, score and attendance, or a simple approval. So if you're going to ask them to do an e-learning course, so if this is an e-learning course with quizzes built into the training, then you want to manage their score. I mean, they have to attend the e-learning course because we can define that they have to spend the relevant time and they can't go forward in the content. These are all configured steps that stop people rushing through content. They have to read documents for a certain amount of time and so on. Okay, so I'm assuming that this is an e-learning course configuration, and I'm in the training itself, I'm going to have this as a score, the evaluation type, and I'm going to say the minimum score is 7.5. And the maximum number of attempts is 1, because I don't want them to do it 3 times. I want them to do it properly the first time. And I want to know where they are. So I want to know where their knowledge is. So typically e-learning training courses are a good starting point to get a sense of their foundation knowledge and capability. And so this is what I'm assuming. We're also going to add, well, there's two decisions here. The first decision is, do you want the evaluation template to be sent to the participants after they've reviewed the course material? So when we structure the course, we have a decision to make whether we just have course content being videos, being documents, being articles, so any of the links that I'll show you when I set up the course. So the evaluation template is a secondary step once they've completed the training material. So the e-learner would do their videos, would read their SOP documents or their policy documents, and then they would get a second step to complete an evaluation of their knowledge. And if that's the step you want, we need an evaluation template to be added in this evaluation template box here. So this is option number 1, and I think this is the good starting point. Okay, so we need to add an evaluation template, and that evaluation template is part of the survey component. So you need to have the survey component as part of your overall solution. If that's not part of your solution, then you'll need to talk to your partner about adding that to your license agreement. So we need training, and we need training component, and we need survey component to configure this. If we're going to add documents to the training course, we need the document component. Okay, so there are other things we can do, but for now let's just assume that a basic starting point is a survey component, training component, and document management component. All right. So that's option number one. And we're going to add an evaluation template in here. So I'm going to create an evaluation template here because this is the best way I recommend you do this, because there are different evaluation template modes, and there's a survey mode and there's a test mode. And the survey mode is used for some elements of the system in here in this configuration, and test mode is used for other elements of configuration. And I'll show you that. So in the training component, when I add an evaluation survey here, I get the test mode automatically. You see that? So I don't need to decide what the mode is. I want a survey type in here, and I'm just gonna use a quiz survey type, and I'm going to call this survey template GH test. Okay, and I'm going to call this a course quiz. I'm going to call it a quiz because I'm not going to take the result from this quiz. And this is the quiz that the person will take once they've completed the training material. Again, I'm allowing that. So there's some parameters in here. We can have a different language selected in the survey quiz here, survey template. The key thing here is that if you want somebody else to complete this quiz, then you would have the responsible team for completing. But in this case, I'm going to make sure that the individual completes this. Okay, there's a few options here. I'm just going to take the standards, the standard settings here. I'm not going to go through every setting in the survey template, but this is pretty straightforward parameters. We don't need to worry too much about that. So I'm going to save this, and I know what I've called it. So now I have myself a quiz, and now I can see, once I've saved the quiz, the evaluation quiz, I can now see a section here. I can see a section, and in this section here, I need to add some content. So this section here, I'm going to call this, and double click on this and call it introduction. And down here, once you add the section, you can display the questions randomly. I think that's a good setting to have, so that people have taken the test, they can tell their mates it was A, it was B, it was C. You know, you can random these so no one can do that. So I think that's definitely a good require. We can display answers as well randomly in this section. Okay, so the key thing here is if you're going to display the questions randomly, you don't want to number the questions, i.e. you don't want to prefix the questions with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You just want to type the questions out without any numbers in the text. And it says, do not take into account the questions of these sections for the final score. So there might be a section where you ask them a quiz, but you don't want that section to be included in the final score. So you can exclude certain sections from that final score. Okay, so effectively you could have a section that gives you a quiz, which is like a trial test, and then you can have a section that says this is your actual test, and then you would parameterize, you would turn this, do not take into account the questions of this section for the final score for the test quiz. Okay, and then in here we have our questions. So I'm going to save this, and we can put our questions in here, and I'm just going to add one question. We can use existing questions that we have already created in the system.